Missladypetal here, and welcome to my vlog for this week. I have been playing with a little bit of facial contouring because, you know, it just interests me as an artist. I just wanted to see if I could like paint my face with the same sorts of shadows that we do naturally put in and contour it to try and see if my face was contoured better. And I'm using some powders. I've used some creams, used some powders. Yeah, I think it looks alright. That's kind of where I've been playing a little bit with and I've been working a bit this week. On Saturday I had my first gig demonstrating all day in a spotlight store at Everton Park for Canson Australia as part of the Crafty Crusaders design team. And not all of our design team are near a spotlight store, or they weren't all holding events, but some of us did get in there and spend the day painting tiles and fabric and having some general fun, because it is Spotlight's Craft Month this month. And I did some nice tiles and I put some photos of them up on my Missladypetal Creations page and had some fun. And then I thought to myself, if I ever do this again, I'm going to take in a few different things so that when people do glass, they can at least see glass that I've painted, and some examples of some of the projects that we do on the blog that I contribute to the blog, and then they'll have a look at and see how creative they can get within the design team, or within their own sphere, by buying a few simple products that can, you know, jazz up a whole dinnerware set, which I think would be really cool and really cost effective. So yeah, we had lots of fun, and there were some nice photos that went up and really cute kids and parents, and yeah, we had a great time. And on Sunday, last week, lots of movies. Went and saw The Second Best Exotic Marigold Hotel #2, and that was part of a polio, you know, raising money for polio for Rotary fundraiser, and that was really cool. And I won 2 bottles of wine in the raffle. Yay me. And then there was another one for Rotary, but it was for a Kokoda challenge where we're raising money for veterans, and some Rotary guys are doing the Kokoda challenge, and they did a team raising things, and I went and saw Jupiter Ascending. Now that is really sci-fi, and I found out right at the end it was by the Wachowski brothers, i.e. the Matrix trilogy, and I thought to myself, yes, if you're going to see that, just think the Matrix trilogy in space. Very similar themes as you go further into it, very similar themes, really interesting. I liked it. Not all people liked it, but I really liked it because I like that kind of thing. I must admit, I loved the Matrix trilogy until the last probably 10 minutes, and then I hated the whole thing and I've never watched them since. So there you go. Yeah, rather like some people with the first Star Wars movies when they came out and they first heard Jar Jar Binks, I think. But in the art space, and this week I got some products as part of my DT demonstrating thing, which I will probably give back. Yeah, I will give back, because they stay in that kind of demonstration box. Yeah. I also got a dip ink pen. So I was looking at it and I found one from Montmartre that has these special nibs, and if you have a look at the back, see, they don't look like normal nibs at the back. They hold extra ink in them, and that was like $7.99 at a cheap shop somewhere. So I got, and they've got #2, all the number 0s all the way up to number 4s, and then some slanted ones in that pack. And I actually tried it in a little notebook just to see how far that the ink would go. And I've got those little notebooks here anyway. Okay, so that was one, and that was one nib, and not even the whole nib. I then went on and did another page which I ripped off, and started drawing and doing all sorts of things, and that was just the one dip. And I think to myself, well, that's really good, because if I'm looking for a dip pen, what I've found with the existing dip pens that I have is that they run out and you're halfway through a word and you have to re-dip, and then there could be slight ink blots and, you know, just stuff like that. Yeah. So anyway, I was very happy with these because they write really smoothly and they're really nice, and I was really enjoying that. I am almost finished this Mash It Up journal, and I will do a flip through. My latest page, the houses page, if you can see here, see that there is a piece of tape there now, and I am going to paint over that, but I was just adhering it down with matte medium, actually with gel medium, and that's because I was working on this page. Let me just, and I'm really annoyed at this as well. I'm really annoyed with this page. So I love the colours in this page, but when I did this page, all the ink went into the middle of the spine, and I've actually lost a page that was ripped out. This page here was all taped up, and I had to do 2 single pages and tape them up. And that one there's half ripped out and had to be taped and then repainted over. And then for the rest of the book, I'm actually just playing around with adding in paper to reinforce some of the pages that could have been weakened by the ink. And I remember somebody saying in, I think it was the Life book group, that be careful with your inks. If you let them go into your spines, they will make your pages weak at the folds where the signatures are sewn through, and that would make them prone to ripping out. Now, I had thought to myself, oh yeah, look, see, I'd never done that before because I'd never worked that heavily with inks in a book. I'd worked that heavily with inks on loose leaf, and this is one of the benefits of working loose leaf, because when you work that heavily with inks, you don't have the folio and the signature already sewn to be weakened. It is just a flat piece of paper, and that's why I did that. But I found that really kind of put a damper on it, and because I'm like almost finished, I don't have that many pages left to go, I then had to go into major damage control, because of course my signatures are already all sewn into this journal, and this journal's special to me because my friend Letha made it for me for Christmas, and so I didn't want to completely trash it. And I also too am just making sure that my pages are waxed in that as I go, and that they're not sticking. And actually, as I flip through this now, there's a lot of pages in this that I haven't actually filmed because I just did them because I wanted to do them, or I wasn't happy with them as I was doing them and I didn't want to film it, or I was doing them late at night and I didn't want to wake anybody up when I was filming, all that kind of stuff. So I will do a flip through when I'm finished, and it won't be too long in the future, I don't think, before it's done. Because I thought to myself when I first started that I would do a lot of single pages, but I've actually done an awful lot of double pages. And of course, if you're doing double pages, it's going to go, you're going to finish it faster because you're doing double pages, which is not a problem. Because of course, Letha can either make me another one, or I can just sew one myself, because I really like these. I think I will do it in a more standard size, which is an A4 sheet folded in half, which is about 5 by 7, and this is about 9 by 6, something like that, 9 by 6. So it's a little bit bigger, a little bit different. It'll probably be more in line with my sermon journal notes, because if you have a look at that, just is a little bit bigger. Let me put it right up to the edge just is, you can see the spine there, just a little bit bigger, which mucks with my paper. I wasted a lot of paper when I was putting things in that, because of course American sizing and Australian sizing doesn't always marry up. That's something that I found. I also organised my chalks this week, because my chalks were breeding in the little drawer that I had them in, never intending to get a stack of chalks because I was mainly looking at chalks in the application of faces. Now I have so many chalks I actually need a really big, and I have a catalogue of them, and I can tell you this is heavy. This is the chalks, you can see them there. Heavy, big, it's big. And I just had that spare, that container spare. Really interesting. I just didn't know that I had that many chalks. The things we find out when we actually inventory what we have. It was interesting inventorying what I had. I also played around this week with an egg carton. You wonder, what on earth is she doing with an egg carton? Well, paint palettes. I have sprayed that with enamel paint, and of course it's soaked in, because if you were to use this as a paint palette, the paint would soak in initially. Now the paint won't soak in, but it's one of those things that you can just let dry. You can scrape out as much paint as you can, but you don't have to rinse it out or clean it. And like I just gave it a quick spray of enamel spray, and a lot of people have these like car sprays or acrylic or enamel sprays, and just seal it or coat it with Mod Podge. For those of you that get narky with me when I say Mod Podge, it's Mod Podge. Or just PVA glue. So just coat it with PVA glue. Yeah, don't use anything expensive at all. But yeah, that will seal it, and then you could just use this paint palette if you're new to starting out. I do that sometimes, and sometimes that's got 12. Sometimes I have 12 paints, and most of mine are like 6 or 9, and sometimes I have 12. Because I might be working on 2, 3, 4 projects at once, and I really just want to pull all the paint out and do it all at once, because when you finish something, you've got to wait for the paint to dry, so you just set it aside, go to the next one, set it aside, go to the next one. So that's what I do generally, and sometimes I'll do that with up to 6 projects at a time, depending on what deadlines I've got going at that moment. So yeah, I just thought I'd share that with you. You probably already know it because I have a lot of really resourceful subs there. So I got a few requests last week when I said I wasn't going to do a Technique Friday last week because nobody had sent me any requests, and I am doing it as a viewer driven segment, and those episodes, they stand alone. You can go back and watch them. Somebody asked me to do a flesh tones. Now I have done a flesh tones, but then they clarified it, and I actually had another 2 or 3 people say, I want to know about glazes, and specifically your flesh glaze and how you mix your actual flesh paint. Now there's a lot of different things that go into mixing up a flesh paint, and it is really personal choice about what you want. Now I have fair skin, and I tend to generally paint and draw fair-skinned people because that's just me. I have done some dark-skinned girls, and they were a bit gorgeous. I've given them all away, so I can't show you, but they are very different and actually really quite hard with the flesh tones sometimes, and to mix those neutrals and browns for the beautiful tones in dark-skinned people. I love dark-skinned people, they're gorgeous. Very hard sometimes to recreate that beautiful, sometimes mahogany or coffee coloured, or you know, beautiful different grades of that skin. Just some of them honey coloured and coffee coloured and just orangey, yellowy, that yellowy skin, more Asian sort of yellow skin to white. Really interesting tones, and it's sometimes very difficult to recreate. And I find that I naturally slip into painting people like me, or more Caucasian, and that's just my preference, but you never know. You want the ability to be able to do anything. And I often use the glaze, so I've got some glaze mixed up here with some glazing medium. I often use that to cover up something that I think might be particularly dark, and I use it in conjunction with watercolours, neo colours, pencils, acrylic paints, you name it. So there's a lot of different things, even chalks. I will seal chalks with a glaze. So there's heaps of different uses for it, mainly in the face space, but you can use it anywhere. I actually sealed hair and just other elements on a page that I'd used chalks to do some shading with, and I didn't want to use a fixative, and I didn't mind if they smudged a bit because that was the point. And so I used glazing medium to seal them over the top, and it was great. Didn't smudge that much. Used glazing medium, painted over the top, just layer upon layer. It was great. Art Supply Junkie. I haven't got anything this week. I did order some Inktense pencils from a friend of mine because I had my order cancelled, and she had lots of duplicates and she offered them to me at a really great price. They're probably in my PO box now, but I haven't got them yet, so I haven't been out today, so there you go. They're probably in. But other than that, no. I'm trying to be good. I'm trying to be good. I can't spend more than what I earn. That's the whole point. And I like to try and use the money that I earn from my art on my supplies and things like that. So, yeah, that's kind of, it's yeah. So, away from this art supply junkie, that I'm not really an art supply junkie this week because I haven't gotten anything, which my husband will be heartily, if he stalks me online and sees this, he'll be heartily relieved to know that I haven't spent anything this week on art products. But that said, been working hard, been working on JKIS, journaling Crazy Island style projects this week, a couple of mash it up pages, a couple of altered book pages. And so if any of you haven't seen my altered book, this is my altered book. So I did it in kind of a steampunk style, and it's a hardcover book, and it was a book of like devotions, which I really liked because the pages weren't too thin. So I started this, I would say, 18 months ago, and 18 months ago I sat down and went, oh, what will I do, right? So I've done a couple of pages that I've seen other people do. That was Rach 013. This was my latest one where I went and redid a page that I didn't like. This is also Rach 13. Loved the doodles, put my bit of a spin on it. Loved it. And I find with these, this is another page that I use, when I was new to fat over lean and mixed media, I learned and made some mistakes. So this is a page that I love, but it's got oil pastels, and although it's got fixative over it, yeah, nothing will stick to it. And it then in the fixative started sticking, and then I had to wax it. And I personally am going to leave that page just like that, just that simple, nothing else on it, because nothing will stick to it. And of course you've seen some of these, some different sorts of pages. This is just something that I'm doing a little bit in, and it's interesting working with gluing pages together. So I've got the next couple of pages glued, and I've cut out pages. So on the spine there you'll see I've cut out some pages, but I've got some pages, like a lot more to cut out as I go. But we see how thick, because some of the pages are quite thick, so you know that it's not going to have nearly as many pages by the time I get to the end of it. But that's a long-term project for me, and I just kind of do it when I feel like it. And I've been combining a few of those pages with mash it up pages and really enjoying it and using kind of what I got. And I have so much paper pads and journals and loose leaf papers and more journals and composition books and stuff that I'm like, oh wow, if I didn't buy any books or journals for the next couple of years, I'm very well very well, kind of spoken for there. But also too, I've continued sketching. I haven't done nearly as much sketching lately, and I did a girl upside down. You see her? So, and people say to me, oh, you're going to colour that face, and I'm like, well, it's not in a journal that's great with colouring. And of course, some of you that follow my Missladypetal, so that was my floral girl. And playing with lots of petals and florals coming out of her hair. and then I sat down and watched the mummy one night, and then I played with cats and people, and it's just like, this is just sitting on the couch and playing, doing something with a 3/4 profile, so with a different kind of a shaped face and a 3/4 profile and different shaped nose, and just sit down and play. That's all I can say to you. Sit down and play. If I never do anything with those sketches again, I'll just draw them again, and I think that's the point of practice. You know, you can do them once and you don't be scared to then do them again so that you can do them again. So yeah, I really like that. Alright, so being that said, for me, there's some big decisions coming up in my life shortly, and I have to really put some thought into them, and I'm not going to share what they are as much as I would like to share what they are, because they're just a thought bubble at the moment, and it kind of is just stuff that's going on for me, and I love that. I love that I can share with you, and those of you that pray, you can pray for me and for great wisdom and a sense of direction. And I may have to make some choices, but you know what? I'm loving my life right now. I've got lots of things going on and I'm really busy, and I love that about my life. And so therefore I really need to think through, you know, how I spend my hours during the day and what impact that makes on the world, and also earning money with that, as well as, you know, our business and my art business and all those things. So it's a really interesting time in my life, and my kids are getting older, and my eldest is finishing school this year, and there's lots of different things going on. So I am just taking stock and thinking some things through, and I think that's some exciting options to have and good times to have. And so I'm going to end on that note. It's a positive note. I love having choices, I love having options, I love connecting with people, and that's why I keep doing these vlogs, because I love it that I can touch your lives. And you know what? You touch me back when you comment on what I say and do, and you appreciate what I do. So feeling the love from everyone this week. Love you all, and can't wait to share if there's any new things that are going on in my life. I'll share them with you. You know that I will. I love sharing them with my peeps. And have a great week. Remember, learn something new this week. It keeps you young. Ciao for now.